So I would say that my disc profile and my communication philosophy and everything, as I've kind of looked at it as a whole, I would say that it hasn't changed at all. More so, I've just kind of solidified it to be a little bit more up with what I believe in the way that I carry myself as a coach and as a person. When I'm looking at my report, my natural and my adapted style are basically the same thing. So I know that the way I'm communicating with somebody in a grocery store that I've never met and an athlete in a high pressure situation tends to be really similar. Um, I might get a little more intense in an athletic environment, obviously, but it's relatively the same. Nothing's really changed. Again, I've just been a little bit more aware of that. And so, kind of what's happened is I've found that something that I just want to continue to do is making sure that I'm trying to stay calm and composed in a situation. I tend to get really frustrated when something's not going quickly. And so I think that's something I've got to be really careful about is not losing my cool. I want to set the example for my athletes. So if I'm screaming and losing my cool at a meet when we're 5 minutes behind, that doesn't do anything because then they just get stressed and then they think that's an acceptable way to act, and then they're getting disqualified, and then I'm getting angry. It's just a mess. And so I think me just continuing to be that calm, steady presence as often as possible, and the way I'm communicating, not letting the moment get the best of me. Now, my communication philosophy is it as it is currently, it's kind of what I was just saying, but just this idea of being consistent, intentional, and passionate. I don't want to come across as robotic. I want to come across as calm and steady, and so that's something I'm always trying to balance. And so, like I was just saying, trying to strike that balance of being calm, composed, but having the energy when it's time to have the energy, just knowing in that situation, but knowing my athletes can predict me because I'm so consistent. And that's something I found really noticed over the season while looking at this course content and thinking about it and this assignment in general. My peer feedback, just all of it, is that my athletes can predict me. And I had a mentor who's a coach told me that if they can predict you, that means your message is clear and consistent. And so that's a good thing to have happen. And so, right now we're on a trip and we're out of state. It's the first time we've done a trip like this. And I got my athletes together to let them know the ground rules of the Airbnb that we're in and the way we're going to compose ourselves in public and why we're on this trip. And as I'm like, you guys already know what I'm going to say. And then they started rattling off the things that I say. And so my communication is consistent and it's intentional and they know, but they also take it seriously. And so that passion is also there. And so when I was thinking about the peer feedback as well as feedback from you, Dr. Bunning, I was just making sure that I focused more on the communication side versus the coaching side. I really struggled with that the first time through. I kind of made it more of a coaching philosophy and focused on that versus my communication. Because how I communicate can be how I do it with my wife, with my friends, with my family, with the person in the grocery store. And so it's just trying to do a good job of communicating in a way that is these things that I care about, no matter who it is. And I think that's been just the biggest takeaway is usually with communication, I boil it down to how am I talking to my athletes and how am I explaining what we're doing in practice today and the X's and O's and when are we leaving. And it's also how they think I feel about them and am I stressed out in a situation, and so then should they be stressed out or not. And it's also how am I talking with my wife, if I've had a long day at work, I'm stressed out, how am I communicating? Am I being short and snippy with her, or am I being consistent? Am I letting things slip? Just stuff like that. And so that's kind of been the biggest thing I've been able to take away from this assignment.